If you guys, without further ado, please stand to your feet and please give a warm round of applause for B. Hunter and Terayle Hill. Always, yes, sir.
Okay, so we are going to get started with our questions. And first, I do want to say a special thank you to Miss Mickey Clowney for giving us the opportunity. Yeah, clap it up. And Dr. Lindsay for the opportunity to be able to be here tonight and be in front of you all. So we are excited. Are y'all excited? Yeah. Y'all good? Y'all good? Okay.
First question. Can each of you share a bit about your journey and how you got here? Obviously, we saw the film. It was truly an inspiration, but we would like you to share a little bit more about what it is that led you to do the work that you do, have the inspiration that you have, and just give back to people in the way that you do.
Okay. Got me first? Okay. Y'all should go with T first because y'all see most of me, but okay. Hey, everybody. Thank you guys so much for viewing that. I appreciate each and every one of you and the opportunity to be here. So sorry. I got to give Miss Mickey her flowers, too. Thank you, Miss Mickey. Appreciate you. Where's she at? We love you so much. Clap it up for Miss Mickey and the full staff and team. We appreciate y'all. Thank you. You know, what brought me to this work, is I feel like I've told this many times, but maybe you guys haven't heard it, but I think it's good to know that I always didn't have the heart for people. And it may sound like, oh my God, but that's actually where I was. I was a very selfish person. I would say like 12 years ago, more like 10 years ago. I was living for myself in New York City. I was not thinking about community at the time, but what led me there was despair. I'll say that. And being a woman in the fashion industry and who was, flying around the world and making a name for myself at the time, that got old. And I began to feel very empty. The industry got empty for me, right? And I went out to New York to pursue this dream in fashion and footwear design. And although I made a big impact there, I was working with Victoria's Secret, Steve Madden, Betsy Johnson, like moving through the streets. But it really took a toll on me after a while, making a bunch of money for companies. So I moved back to Moreno Valley. But my plan was not to go to my mom and dad's house, though. Okay, it wasn't that. But I found myself there struggling. And without giving y'all the full story, I think it was the need for prayer. I prayed for my purpose. I prayed that I would be able to do something that's bigger than me, that will fill my cup. Well, I didn't know a whole organization was in me at the time. And just for y'all, like you never know what you're pregnant with, right? You don't know what lives inside of you. And sometimes those adversities is what pulls it out. And that's what started this journey to love on people, because I had to change my words. I had to, not look at myself as a failure. And in that process of allowing, I would say the Lord, because I prayed, I think that's where everything changed for me. And then I had a heart for people. And then I started to care for people. But it wasn't always caring. And I think that should be known and clear, because that's where the testimony begins. It ain't like, I always had empathy for the world. No, I did not. And that's the truth. But isn't that a beautiful testimony, right? Someone who did not care and automatically it's like, oh my God. I mean, low key, real fast, I'm Pastor Terrell. People call me germaphobe. Okay, they're like, oh, you don't like touching things. Like, my family knows me as someone that's very, funny about germs per se. But when I'm out in the streets with those people, but people I love, we call them our neighbors, I don't care. It could be the person that has the dirtiest hands. But if that's what they need to feel loved, I'm going to do that because I can go back and take a shower, right? And they can't. So to me, that level of transformation, knowing that I came from a background of not caring for people and literally outside saying, who cares? We do, is a testimony. So just start there.
Amen. Amen. Y'all can hear me? You guys can hear me well? It's all good? All right. So I'm from Moreno Valley, California. I definitely had dreams of being a professor growing up. And when I was senior in high school, I got accepted to Clark Atlanta University at the Black College Expo. At the time, it was at Staples Center. I know some of y'all too young for that. Um, so, long story short, I got accepted on an African American Studies master's program as an undergraduate. I thought it was a undergrad major, but they told me when I got there that it was a master's one and I had to pick a different one. And long story short, my whole family are performers. So he's laughing because he knows everybody in my family, even my brother, rest in peace, he was an opera singer. I didn't inherit the ability to sing like my little sisters, and he did. But writing and crafting stories has been a part of my story for a long time. So naturally, I found myself in the film department working behind the scenes to become a director. And then one day, I guess the performer in me started itching at the same time that a friend of mine on campus challenged me to audition for like a web series that was shooting on campus. And I wouldn't even say challenge more than I was telling him I wasn't going to do it and he wasn't having it. So I went, and that web series turned into 10,000 hours of, YouTube. And, they say 10,000 hours become professional. I still at that point needed 10,000 more, in my opinion. But senior year, I booked my first show called The Quad on BET, which was in 2016. And it's been 10 years of that. Most recently, I've been working on All American as a new character for season 7 and this new upcoming season for season 8. But I never put down my love for telling stories behind the scenes. So how I got here, it's a long story. But how I got to be was not letting the thing that, became my 24/7 make me forget about the things that I thought about my whole life. And gratefully so, she trusted me to, help build what is now an Emmy-winning documentary that was really a grant that's less than 6 figures. That is a documentary for YouTube. Not to minimize it, but if you work in film, that's not a lot of money. And if you know anything about how YouTube works, you probably wouldn't think you can get an Emmy on there, right? So I think about all the time, what if there was a budget? But I'll rest it and just say that I'm grateful to be here, and I'm grateful that I could be used in the capacity that I was and to work alongside B.
Okay, so the next question is, how did you build trust with the individuals whose stories were shared in the film, or just altogether build a relationship with the recipients?
That's a great question. I think the trust started with our intentions. Before we even filmed anyone, we actually have been interacting with them already. So many people that you may see in the film, we've already built relationship with them. And the way you do that is just by showing up. I mean, week after week, we would just see the same people. And we didn't know it was going to take off the way it did because we're like, okay, we're going to see a bunch of different individuals and make connection and give them an ear and give them a lunch. But then we start to see there was this expectation being built when we went out to see people. So now, like, it's like doing house calls, or you know how you visit someone when they're not doing well in the hospital? They're like, oh, did you come by to see me? So it really starts to feel like that. And I think that's where we start to build trust with them because we never wanted to be performative when we serve people. Or like, hey guys, look what we're doing at the same time. But you do kind of got to show what you're doing. You do have to show your partners that the food that they donated or the money that they gave is going to the right people. I think it just comes down to a heart posture. And that's where you will build trust, just by showing up consistently. And they were actually willing to share their stories with us because they were like, this is my thank you to you guys for showing up for me with no strings attached. And that's how we build trust with people, that we care for.
B obviously can speak very, very clearly on her relationship with the neighbors and all of the volunteers. I'm not an executive at Power Speak Louder, so I can't really speak to that, though I've always found myself to be a people person. In fact, shout out to Miss Mickey, what's up? I've known Miss Mickey and a lot of teachers around Moreno Valley for like the last 20 years because I was a student that was in a bunch of different organizations. In that, I think the question for me in that way is I've learned how to deal with people behind the scenes in TV and film. You know what I mean? And hundreds of personalities of all kinds. And though I'm grateful to say that there was no true conflict on any projects I've been a part of, especially here. Everybody's hearts and intentions are pure, so it wasn't a whole lot of work to assist in keeping things together. But production meetings are supposed to be productive, and I think that helped get a lot of things situated from the jump, and we were able to keep that thing going moving forward. Yeah.
Next question. This film challenges stigma around homelessness. What do you hope audiences walk away thinking or doing differently?
I'll take this one too, and I'm gonna bounce it to UT because you have your own way of answering this. I think as you watch this film, I think it's kind of clear, right? It's like, wow, sometimes we're not hearing the stories of people and we pass them by. Sometimes we may see people like hanging out outside a Dollar Tree and we're hustling, bustling. And even I was guilty in the past of like, okay, I got somewhere to go. You know what I mean? Like, I think everyone have been there. But I think I think it should spark something in you to just care for people and know that everybody has a story. Not just as a plug, but there's some merch over there. And it actually says, don't judge me before you know my story. And any of us can be in that situation, right? And just giving people, like Juliet said, respect. Sometimes we think we have to build a whole entire organization just to love on people. And it's like, you can be kind, you can give a smile, because that little lunch, people laughed at that. Like, people are like, oh, that's just a lunch. But that lunch turned into someone donating a bus. That lunch turned into us actually getting our office in November 8th when we were serving out of a house. That little tiny lunch grew into so much more. You know what I mean? So you just have to start with that small thing. And I think that's how it goes there. And then for T, because I want you to speak to, is the backside of it. Because, like, how do we tell these stories and be creative, right? Because as we want people to walk away with what they saw on how to treat people in their community, but also like even the backside of working together, professionalism, kindness, all the things. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I can kind of speak to all of it. For the record, them sandwiches do go crazy. I don't know if y'all noticed how they had the three meats kind of floated over. That's elite level. Somebody work at Subway, and it's going up. Um, I'm so stupid. I mean it though. The sandwiches is going crazy. Nothing stupid about that sandwich. I will say what I want people to get is the same thing that you're telling me to speak to. I think one thing that I appreciate most about the documentary is the subtext is, like you said, you don't really know what you're pregnant with, right? You don't know why this idea is circulating in your head. And the older I get, the lesson that I heard growing up, which resonates more now than ever, is that we don't go through things for us, we go through things for other people. So if you're trusted with a story, if you're trusted with a song, if you're trusted with an idea, if you're trusted with a documentary, and, on paper, not enough to make it happen, you don't know who's supposed to see it. You don't know. I'm sure it'll come up, but we didn't know that the Emmy was even a thing. We didn't apply for it. Like, there was somebody who was at the premiere who saw it and spoke on our behalf. You know what I mean? And I think that just goes to show, to B's point, that one thing I want people to get from this is to just be obedient to whatever the feeling is, not to what's culturally relevant. I remember at one point, I've had a decent amount of people in my life, some of which are germaphobes, and I remember one person in particular, and this isn't to talk negative, but super duper uber nice in a literal sense, but would kind of like come down on people for like praying with the homeless. because you got your hands on them, and that's not. And for me, it's never been like that. And I didn't even think that that would be the thing, because in that moment, that's not what I'm thinking about. And this is at least 12 years ago, and that moment stuck with me more than anything, mainly because I would hate to be in a situation where I need prayer, but someone don't like what I'm wearing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
that's crazy to me. And the older I get, the second thing I want people to get is to never stop praying. And I say that unapologetically. Whatever I don't know what Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, but whatever you do, that's cool,
Period.
right? But if you do pray, just don't stop. Don't walk away from home. And those stories will become easier to tell because your steps are being ordered,
Yeah, that's
and the
it.
things that you have to say are coming from a place that knows what's going on after you're gone. You know what I mean? This is going to
Legacy.
live on
The legacy.
well after us, all of us, so long as Google don't lose a lawsuit and lose YouTube for some reason. But for the most part, this should be up for a while, right? And who knows who sees it? You know what I mean?
That's good.
Okay. Now that you guys have this wonderful Emmy Award winning film, what responsibility do you feel you have to tell other stories and more stories for people who may not have the opportunity to share their story at this level? Are you guys looking into doing any more films soon or anything of that nature?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Me and Terayle, when you seen this on the stage right there, we talking about some things. But I think it's exactly what we're doing right now. This is our responsibility, and this is why we're on the stage, is just to serve and to pour out and to share, right? We're sharing stories of people whose voice is not heard, but we're also bringing those stories to people whose voice haven't been heard either. And we're trying to tell y'all stories and all the things. So there's just so many stories to be told, but at the same time, Terayle and I are also in the business of teaching young generations on how to do what we do, right? This is where workshops come in. This is where speaking engagements come in. This is where podcasts come in, right? And those are the things that we're currently doing and we're currently working on. And I think the journey continues. It just doesn't stop. This is one thing that we were able to do in just being obedient, like Terayle said. We prayed for this. And a grant writer said, you know what? I didn't know nothing about the grant. I didn't even know you can get a grant doing any type of creative work, right? And she's like, yeah, I think you can get this grant. Take a look at it. I was like, okay, great. And I like to tell people how much the grant was to give them hope and courage. The grant was $90,000. Okay. And I say that not to gatekeep on what's possible when you just have a vision in your heart. And she wrote the grant. We got the grant. And our duty and responsibility was to perform and do what we said we were going to do with the funds, right? We brought on people like Jordan Lyles, who was the camera operator. He also did the documentary soundtrack. So you guys can download the soundtrack as well. And then we had Dorian Armstead. Want to give him his flowers and credit. And shout out to the PSL team over there. We got Dana, we got Sama, we got Cassandra, we got Andre, we got James there. Jerome and Alicia back there, Coach Christy, everyone, the people from the documentary, they're right here in the room, right? They're on the corner, so y'all shake their hand afterwards. But that happened, that took place, and Terayle and I, we're just trying to and Jordan Lyles and Dorian, just to work on the film. That's all we're focused on. Then the Emmy came, like you said, by somebody watching it at the premiere, submitting it for us, paying the fee of $230 on our behalf. And I did not want to submit it at the time because I was like, I'm busy and I'm overwhelmed, and she pushed it through. We got nominated, invited to the ceremony. Then we won. And now that Emmy hangs in our office that we can always point to and say, look what the Lord has done, right? For our community, for the people. And here, okay, let me add this one part because this part I did not mention. I think the biggest test to see if we did a good job on highlighting people's stories was what the community has to say. Because mind you, They seen the documentary on the streets, right? They seen it. So now we're hearing, oh my God, thank you guys so much for highlighting our stories. And because it's a fine line for someone feeling exploited, right? Because some people, we did not get a photo release on a passerby that was waiting on the bus to get food. So we still took a risk, right? But to this day, people are saying, thank you so much. You did a good job telling our stories to people who, often ignore us. So I forgot what the question was, but that's it.
I did forget the question. Oh, yep. Responsibility and whatnot. So I want to highlight the fact that she said the Lord gave us a grant. I also want to highlight the fact that she said that it took 4 years to get it. I think filmmaking in general is a very patient game if you want to see some real traction come from it. And my responsibility in this job, this particular job versus what I do day to day, my job varies day to day. My responsibilities as far as, other projects that I create outside of this is just for context sake. This past weekend, I was the associate producer for the Honda Campus All-Star Challenge. It was a HBCU trivia show where 32 schools came and competed. Shout out to North Carolina Central for winning. But it was really close between them and Hampton. We was all on our toes. We didn't know what was going to happen. I've also produced a few other projects outside of that. I don't want to run the whole resume, but I'm bringing up that to say there's no project that has been like the last. But I took the time to get educated on all the roles behind the scenes. And then I booked a TV show. Like, I wasn't even supposed to do this for real. Like I'm grateful God is good, but like I did not expect to be working in the world of TV and film. And I also don't let the fact that I do that rob me of the things that I've wanted to do outside of it. You know what I mean? I've never put down crew work because I feel called to that world. No, it don't pay for real. Not at this level. Not when they don't know you for that. Not when you haven't had, not when you're not in the union and all of these things. But there's a journey to everything you want to do. And I would just ask anybody who's a filmmaker or a creative to just check your entitlement. Trust the process, but check your entitlement. You know what I mean? Everybody want to make money for what they do. I'm telling you, 10 years in the game, I don't make money from everything I do. And I spend a lot more time hoping to get some money doing it, you know what I mean, than I do actually getting paid. But if you focus on the money, you lose sight. It's kind of like running a race, right? And you on a good pace, and then you start to wander and drift, and next thing you know, you got some footsteps pattering behind you, and you about to lose first place. Like, if you're running a race to get the grand prize, that's not enough to get you through the finish line. You know what I mean? There's got to be something else inside of you that this win means something. For even God to give it to you, let alone for you to be able to pull something that you haven't pulled out of you yet. So, for me personally, I think filmmaking requires a lot of patience and a lot of responsibility, and sometimes it takes you 4 years to get a grant. Sometimes it takes you 10 years to book your first project. Sometimes you're as talented as, I'm gonna just throw out a name because I read this stat on Instagram. I don't know if this is true, internet, should you ever see this, but you got some actors as good as Samuel Jackson that don't get their real breakout role until after they're in their 40s. You know what I mean? And I mean, most box office ticket sales, I read that somewhere, at least one of the years, like he really wanted them, but it took a lot of time for what we consider to be a lot of time, right? For us to know him in the way that he was always going to be known. And I think there's beauty in that, So just don't rush the process if it is a creative endeavor. And if it's something that you're interested in, to your point about workshops, shameless plug, these QR codes are one of the best ways to get in contact with us. This one is literally a QR code to my website where I talk about workshops that we're going to do virtual and otherwise, should anybody want information. But I say that to say the resources are out here and people do want to help. and they don't want to charge a whole lot of bread for it. Some people want to just get information for free. So please show up for the information with an empty cup and watch it get filled.
It's good too.
In today's climate, how can media be used as a tool for advocacy and community uplift? And is there one message that you want every student in this room to remember after tonight? What would it be?
It'll be start where you are with what you have. Each and every person in this room has a phone. You don't need a DSLR camera. You don't need anything like that. I think all of us are engaged in social media in some way, shape, or form. Are we? Can we raise hands? Yep. Okay, there we go. And advocacy is really about being active about the things you care about, because collectively there are other people who care about the same thing, right? And you could do that with other people. You could do that with just sharing those stories. And just don't be afraid to just get on your phone and talk about what you care about. It's a safe place. I mean, yes, people comment all crazy type of stuff these days, but don't let that make you afraid. Okay, just like I would say, get out there and also partner with us, like team up with us. We're always sharing. We're always out there in the community. You can volunteer and do the work. Sometimes quiet victories, and sometimes just actually the effort is speaking loud. Power speaks loud. You're not going to find me at city council yelling at everybody. That's what you're not going to find me, okay? I may go up there to thank the city for the funding that they gave. I may say, this is what we're going to do. But you're not going to find me beating down the doors, because my advocacy work is here, is doing the actual work, right? And I think there's so many different ways we can do that within our community. And media, per se, is a way you can do that. So getting behind the scenes, working in film. Anybody interested in film? So we know who we're talking to? Perfect. Look at that. Look at that, T. Amazing, right? And just hopefully I can encourage you guys to be an Emmy Award winner on the first documentary is wild. But here's the thing. But here's what's really cool about it, because back in New York, I did a video before I moved to New York, and I reenacted my life because I wanted to use it for myself. But I showed people eventually. I'm like, oh yeah, there's a little video I did. So I wasn't ashamed. I actually recorded a whole entire video, and it had that guapale, closer to my dreams, on there. Yeah, so that was my first film. I know. Oh no, put it on right now. Exactly. It's like that was my very first film. But if you would have tapped me on my shoulder then and said, hey, you're going to do a documentary in the future, it wasn't too far-fetched. I was just working in the dark and nobody's seen it. So I think you can just use what you have and then start so that way it can grow and you can collect data on how you start. If you don't start at all, you ain't got no data to collect. How you going to know how to improve it if you don't start it, right? Start where you are, okay? All right, that's what my little 2 cents. There's, of course, more, but I got to hold back.
Okay. I'm going to come back to what I would say, but can you repeat the other question? Sorry, guys. She has such good answers, yo. I'd be like, yeah, yes, clock it. Okay, cool. Most diggity. I appreciate it. So it's 2026 and whatnot. So y'all know the nature of like American culture. As soon as you can make money off of something, there's a way to use it in the wrong ways. And in 2026, you got more channels that you can tap in with and more shows you can tap in with because people have figured out that content is cash, it's currency. But not everybody is making it because they care about who's watching it. A lot of people are making it because they got to follow a mandate, or right now this is what's in and we need to get a piece of that. It's not the soul of filmmaking as we know it is going to be compromised if people with something to say don't continue saying it for the right reasons. And I think the responsibility is somebody who works in media, no matter what form or facet. Josh gave an incredible bio. I've worked in the world of a lot of different industries. I've written songs for artists. I've written songs for TV shows and films. I've worked in TV as an actor. I've produced behind the scenes. And to be completely honest with you, every single one of them carry an equal responsibility. And if you're in it for the money, you're not going to last for real. I think, and I'm not saying you shouldn't shoot for money, because it's the second time I done brought up money. Trust me, that's not the point. You should try to make sure that your ideas and your talents can take care of your baseline. However, you should not compromise the art that you've been trusted with for the sake of $1. And the minute you start to do that, you're going to dilute your ideas, and eventually the stories are not going to hit the same to you, let alone everybody else you want to tell them to. So just keep authenticity at the forefront. And remember that the responsibility you have in media is what's the influence media has over you today. Y'all laugh when I did this. Where we see that at? All right. So if y'all know media, exactly, you get a birthday cake. All right. You know. So see, some of y'all don't know that. All right. Cool. Anyway, my point is, media shifts culture. So if you ask what the responsibility is, what are we talking about? Be a good representation of the images you want to see out in the world and tell the stories that way. Period. And as far as what I would say to anybody who might be walking away, it's very similar to what B would say. It's kind of already similar to what I would say. It's really just don't lose that authenticity. Don't lose that authenticity. For whatever reason you feel when you wake up in the morning that you want to do this thing you say you want to do, man, don't let that thing burn out. Don't let that thing burn out. That might be the one thing in this life that you have a choice about. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Hi, I'm Tiana. Started the BSU at MVC, and I had a question for you. What caused you to break out of your depression, or what fueled you to even continue doing something for others when you found yourself in that dark place?
That's loaded. But thank you so much. Great question. And you know what? We giving the giveaways to, that's a good question. We got a giveaway for you to the audience from PSL Evolve. Is that okay? Yeah. Oh, yeah, y'all too. I guess you can get y'all one too. Great question. And it was a series. If any of you are experiencing that, make sure you write down the things that really stick. Because now when I'm asked this question, it wasn't just one thing, it was a series of things. But the most important thing, I think that was good for me, was surrender. The S word, right? The letting go, like, oh man, I thought, because you did your life the way you saw fit. But how that working for you? You know, that was kind of how it, it's like, so I was like, dang, I just got to the end of my rope, like, okay, well, I made all my choices. And I think it was a surrendering to, you know, maybe there is a better way out of this than I thought. And that opened up my heart to be able to receive a new way. So again, you're all pregnant with something. Something is there. But when you have a child, if some of you already don't have a child already, it's something that you then have to give up too. So it's like the surrender, then I think it's the sacrifice I was willing to take. And then on a practical level, words. Power Speaks Louder was born out of changing my words, right? The power of words. So instead of you're a loser, you're a failure because you're back at home, the words then became, you know what? I'm more than enough. My quote, you're overqualified for what scares you the most, okay? So that was a quote I came up with just to remind myself I'm fully equipped to do anything that God has called me to do. And that's one of the things, the main thing that got me out of depression. It was like the power of words, the surrender, the sacrifice. And my mom so graciously, her and my dad, you know, letting me use their home, but also throwing books in the room for me to read when I was sad. That really helped me out. Yes, thank you.
How were you able to build your village that were able to also see your vision?
Can I be honest and say that sometimes those aren't the same things? Sometimes your tribe is capable of being your tribe, and your business associates are capable of being your business associates, and sometimes they're the same people, and sometimes they're not, and all of them are okay. Because you're not 100% of what you do. You have a life outside of what you create, and you're not necessarily not a creative either. And you have people who are called to you and your ideas, and if you impose your expectations on them because of what you prefer the relationship be, or if you challenge their capacity before they've been called to your idea, that may compromise your idea and your relationships. And if you can keep those worlds together, then keep them. The people that you have to ask about might be the people that you don't need to be in there. The people that you ask to be part of and they jump at the idea of knowing what you have going on, sure, proceed with caution. You know what I mean? Make sure motives are good, but for the most part, anybody who's on board was already on board before you had the conversation. You just ain't had the conversation. And anybody who's not, it doesn't necessarily mean that they don't add value to your life now just because they don't know how to help you launch your new startup. Some people ain't for that. I club with some friends. No, I don't club at all, but you get my point. I had to stop myself from even saying that out loud. I don't club. And actually, my friends know I don't club. And they still my friends. You know what I mean? They just don't invite me there. So, I think you can have groups and they all feed you in different ways.
Yep. Very good. I feel like this is such a well-rounded conversation too, because T's perspective and mine is as well to add to that is when you're going back to the motive, when you're doing it for the right reason. I think your tribe is already built. That is just waiting for you to just take up your space and stand in your purpose. I think that's how I've seen it. Now, your village, because we're speaking to like how do you build community around your vision, right? They're not gonna always look like what you think. Diversity, you know what I'm saying? Diversity. And we have to open ourselves up to people in different cultures. I mean, outside of Lori, our first volunteer outside of her, which was second, was Nini. She's a lovely Indonesian lady who loves PSL down, right? And because I love culture, I'm like, oh my gosh, Nini, so it's like, I think being focused on a purpose so potent as PSL or something that you have in your mind to do, there's already an army of people assigned to it. It has to be, because the purpose is bigger than you. Your vision, I truly believe if it's God-led, it's bigger than you. That means there are people, you cannot lift it yourself. If you were to put every asset that we have right now on a scale, tons and tons, I can't even count. But I can't be out there drive-through by myself, feeding hundreds of families. I can't do it alone. So the people had to come. And it was because I locked in and focused on that one thing. And the village came and the community is built. But to sustain it, there also has to be a level of care on how do we treat people as they're assigned to what we're building, right? We say amplify kindness, and we always make sure we check our hearts of the team to make sure everybody's on the same page. But I would say that.
Question that I would like to ask, as we know, as you start marking off goals and as your capacity increases, things do change. So my question would be, what does success look like for you now that you guys are walking into a different space? You've accomplished so much. Is the mission still the same, or has the mission shifted into a bigger direction?
That's a great question. And it's so aligned with what the team and I talked about early this year. We're like, okay, the focus of this year right now is being strategic about our yeses and our nos. Because last year we were doing a lot and we had multiple programs at once. And success right now is more like cadence, right? Is to refine systems, is to make sure things are well oiled. Because the more you grow something, the more eyes are on it, right? The more you're responsible. And then we have this thing in nonprofit language, you're more fiscally responsible, right? So that's on a deeper level. You got to be compliant out here to be feeding the community. So I think that's what has always been our heart, is as a faith-based organization, as a Black-led organization, we understand we got to get our ducks in a row. And I think for any of us, no matter what your culture is, when you build something, that's kind of where it needs to start, is that compliance, right? Because if anybody can pop your balloon, and then there goes everything that you've built. So for us, success has always been not just to get to the thing, but to get there with excellence. That has always been my heart. So we just been working on that. And it's actually to do less. Success right now, hunting, right? Right now, success looks like to do less but more impact. Because one thing we're not about to do this year is burn out. I'm tired of being burnt out, right? So how do you get there but still be healthy? If we have a health and wellness division, we can't be out here dried up and tired. We got to have health and wellness. So that's like success looks for me is like being a healthy woman, being able to be about my community and going to bed at night, knowing that I did what the Lord told me to do. Okay, and feed into my community with a full cup. That's what success looks like for me now.
So success for me, especially right now, as I look at Lil Imani in the back, like I want that life. I'm ready to have a little one. You know what I mean? And obviously I don't, but my mind is different. It's not about getting to a specific level. It's being able to sustain a specific life for me. So I think in my 20s, I took a lot of shots. In my 30s, I'm taking a lot of good shots. For my hoopers, look, you know what I'm talking about. I win every game at 21, but what my ratio like? You know what I'm saying? I hit 10 shots. I missed 60 though. You know what I mean? All it did was make me more tired. And then I think now that I'm older and I'm tired anyway, my mind is just on making sure I go to bed early, word to be, yep. And I go to bed knowing that I tried my best and I worked smarter. I worked very hard to no point in my 20s. And I look at my 20s and realize I was working so hard because I was working, this is going to get deeper, I was working. If it relates, it relates. But I was working to my own lordship, not to be too deep, but like, look, we don't talk about God or not, right? So I feel like God was my savior, but I ain't really made God my Lord. And I think there's a difference between being protected and being guided. And I think when it came to the things I was praying for, hey, God, help me. I need this. He's like, all right, stupid. Get over here. Because I saved you. Now it's like, hey, God, I need this to make this happen. You bad with money. I can't do it. Because you don't listen to what I have to say about money. You think you can justify a lot of kids, the HE double doubles out of making whatever financial choice you want to make because you can justify it because it aligns with what you want to see happen. So you're going to sit there and make that choice and be cleaning it up for the next X amount of years or walking through life not realizing that that need to be cleaned up at some point. And now I'm tired of cleaning. I'm just, you know what I mean? Like I want to make sure that I every day I eat in the kitchen. I put up all the dishes, the dishes, nothing in the sink, and I just walk a life that doesn't require me to have to always double check my work. And you can do that a lot when you ain't really being advised by nobody. So growing up, for me, I had a lot of excuses to move without guidance. And at some point, yeah, that's a part of your story. And sure, you can chalk trauma and all of these things into there. But even if it wasn't your fault, it's still your problem. And it's your responsibility to break things that are holding you back. And if you don't break those things will break you. So when I'm gonna have a little iman, you know what I mean, little iman, and when I do, iman not gonna have to worry about the things that I was worrying about. Not because people didn't love me or didn't work hard, but because when you get to a place to where it's your turn, you're supposed to try to do better. You know what I mean? So since we only got one question left, I'll shut up now. But you got any of them sandwiches back there? Actually.
Actually, you guys just said something about sleep, and it is getting to that time.
Yes.
So we are going to have
It's late.
We are going to have closing remarks. If there's anything else that is on your hearts, minds that you would like to leave us with before we exit this place, please feel free to do so at this time.
I'll be quick. I don't know what I'm gonna say, but okay. One, just thank you guys so much for taking the time. I know it's late. They did say it in at 10, so it's 9:30, but okay. But no, it's super late. But thank you guys so much for just being here, right? And those who are in the room had to be in the room because there's valuable information being shared. Terayle and I both have journeys of being in a whole different lifestyle before we were where we are right now. So just use us as a template and a reflection of what's possible, you know, when you believe and when you put your best effort forward. And the impact that can be made within your community in a small way, that one seed can grow into something so much bigger. So, yeah, that's pretty much what I have for you. Just thank you so much. And stay locked in with us. Scan these QR codes before we head out. Mind Leads to Power Speaks Louder page. You can find all the information there. If you want to serve, just hit the volunteer tab. You can check in with us. There's a merch table over there. Not sure if we have time for that, but it's okay. But yeah, just tap in with us and learn more about the work we're doing in the Moreno Valley community, okay? Thank you.
I want to just, since this is like the last thing, thank everybody who helped make this happen. Everybody who helped with the IT, helping set things up, the students that showed up, even some of the people who were here earlier who are part of the administration, and all the hands that came together to make everything work. I want to first say thank you guys to everybody in the room. I pray that you guys, you know, on this Monday evening, you know, whether this was the best documentary you've ever seen or not, don't forget, 2 people from Moreno Valley made it. And we made it without any like real financial bread to make it happen. Just because I know financial budgets for TV and film, and I know that we made it happen with a very small crew. If we can do it, y'all can do it too. So I don't see how we not here next year watching one of y'all projects. You know what I mean? And I think that is the point of what this is all about tonight. And if there's any way we can be a resource, to B's point, these QR codes are excellent ways to get in contact with us. My QR code goes straight to my website, and it's not a website in the way that, you know, I mean, there's stuff on there that have things to do with my career. But if you actually click on the inquiry tab, or if you actually click workshop and read the descriptions, and you submit that you're interested, you will be contacted by myself or somebody on my management team about future opportunities to work, collaborate, do workshops, get assistance or whatever, or just follow up and set up time for a Zoom to answer more questions. So please feel comfortable to reach out. This is home, so you guys are neighbors. You know what I mean? And that's basically it. Thank you guys.